What is up, Squared Nation? Welcome back to No Counters, No Combos, and today we're coming at you from the mobile command center. I wanted to bring you guys another budget deck list. We did have the release of set 11, drop last week, and I've been experimenting with a couple archetypes here and there. Obviously, I'm, very looking forward to trying to make yellow skillless Gohan Icarus work, but, I definitely have to go back into the lab and try to make sure that I'm doing that the proper way, because there's probably a couple different ways you can build that deck. But as far as what I'm trying this week, so a lot of the events that we had over the past weekend, whether it was the New Jersey 1K, the case tournament in I think it was Virginia Beach, and also the PPG event, Gotenks was pretty much all over the place. So I wanted to kind of see if it's possible to play Gotenks while considering a budget. And it really is. I mean, the cards that you see on screen right here, you can build this deck for about $40. I mean, give or take a couple dollars here and there depending on who you're buying it from, but for the most part you can easily build this exact list for less than $50. Of course, you're missing your expensive, your counter plays. There's no dormant potentials in here because obviously that card's like $40. There's no charismatic villains, but for the most part, this is a serviceable build that could, start you off with a good skeleton for less than $50. And that's what we're all about here when it comes to our budget builds. It's something that you want to at least crack into the game with. And then if you really like the deck, you can upgrade it from there moving forward. Obviously, I would try to get Dormant Potential Unleash. I would try to get some charismatic villains. Maybe the new Broly Unison from set 11 would be a good addition to this deck. But as you can see, this is operating within that strict budget. So I wanted to kind of get my my take on the deck out for you guys to see. For those of you who do, consider yourself budget players, or who like to stick to more of a budget, especially on a local level without going to too many major events, this might be something to dip your toe in the pond and get your feet wet, so to speak, especially with set 11. Now, what I have noticed in just talking with my play group and just people in the community, set 11 does look to be a very budget-friendly set for the most part. Most of the archetypes in the set can kind of just auto build themselves. I mean, you're not going to be really playing anything that's off the cuff or anything that's out of the archetype specifically. When you look at Gotenks, when you look at Broly BR, when you look at the new Gogeta BR stuff, everything is really archetype specific, which is really good for new players to just jump on or jump back into the game if you haven't played in a while, and just start playing. I do really like this set as far as as a whole is concerned. I don't think it's as good as set 10. I think set 10 was a lot more valuable financially. There's just a lot of really good cards in set 10, but I think that this is a really good set. I think we're going to be moving into a pretty good meta. Obviously, Gotenks was all over the place this weekend, but I think stuff will start to settle down after the set being released for 2 or 3 weeks after those major events took place. So without further ado, let's get right into it. We're playing Gotenks. Obviously, when he attacks, he draws a card, and then his awakening condition, you can awaken if you control a unison that has a specific cost of 2. You flip one over, untap 1, and then you take life until you're at 6. On his backside, he has a permanent skill. Your opponent's leader cannot attack your battle cards, and he has an activate main. Once per turn, by paying a green, you can summon or you can put into play 2 ghost tokens, 15k power, and obviously auto when he attacks, draw a card. So that's basically the leader. He's really good. He's really versatile because he can pump out, essentially he could put battle cards on the board for 1 energy, and that could get out of hand very quickly if your opponent doesn't deal with it. Also, if you don't have any specific plays that you can make that turn, whether it's a fusion play or whether it's a unison play, if you just have mana open or energy open, you can go ahead and sink mana or sink energy into bringing out 2 ghost tokens. So the first card we're going to be going over is this 3-drop Goku that we had here from set 10. The reason I like this card is because I am playing a hand destruction element in this deck, as well as a board wipe or board removal strategy. So I like this Goku because he's a 15k beater that comes down for free. Basically, when you activate a skill that makes your opponent discard a card, because your leader is green, you can free play this guy, and he's a 15k attacker. He's got no combo power or anything like that. Those new black cards that we got in set 10, essentially they have no combo power for their free play effects. But also he has an activate main. You can send him to the warp, and then you can choose one of your opponent's battle cards 4 or less and send it to the warp. So he has free play ability, he's got pressure for 15k, and he also has spot removal if you need it. We are playing the 1-drop Gohan blocker from set 10. Basically, he's in here because he's a blocker, he's a 1-drop, and you can free play him off of the Unison. It's relevant because the new Ss3 Vegito Unison does give your battle cards revenge, so being able to give your blockers revenge is really, really good. Obviously, you know, the top tier builds are playing that Zarbon blocker, but you know, we don't have that card, you know, we don't have access to that card right now, so this is a close second in my opinion. We are playing the Dark Death Ball from set 10, which is the 2-drop counterplay extra card that we talked about in one of our Tech Talk videos. I do like this card. I didn't want to play 2 ofs of this because I am playing another extra card that's a counterplay timing skill on it, but I do like this card because you can play it for free if you control a Unison by just discarding 2 cards, and then you get to, instead of your opponent playing their card that costs 4 or less, you can KO it instead, and also you get the added effect of KOing a 1-drop that's already on the board. So you get to pop 2 of your opponent's cards with this counterplay, and you get to stop their 4-drop from coming in, as long as it doesn't have deflect, obviously. Now we're playing the new Ss3 Vegito Unison. This guy is really, really good. He's a 15k body, 2 specified green. Basically, you want to see this guy by turn 2 so you can awaken, of course. His +1, basically he just gives all of your green battle cards revenge, and when you activate the Union skill, he does let you draw a card, which is going to be very, very what's the word I'm looking for? It's going to be very, very important in this specific deck because you're going to be using those Union skills with the fusion mechanic that you have at your disposal. Also, his -7 is amazing. Activate main. If your leader card is mono green, you can look at your opponent's life, place 1 card among them in the drop area, then your opponent shuffles their life, chooses 3 cards in their hand, and discards them. So you're not only critting them a life, you're getting rid of 3 cards from their hand. Obviously, they get to choose, but you know, losing 3 cards is crucial because that could be combo power, that could be a future play, that could be resources. So any type of hand destruction element in this game has always been really, really strong. And you know, you can get to a -7 because he pluses 2 on his uptick every turn. So you play him for 2 and then you uptick right away, you're at 4. If your opponent doesn't really have a way to deal with Unisons, he's going to spiral out of control very quickly. And the fact that he does give revenge to your battle cards, if you're, you know, obviously if you're playing your blockers, you're going to have ways of protecting him. Obviously, you know, that's probably the Unison of choice in this deck. We do have 2 other Unisons that we play just to have a 6 Unisons to see as early as possible, but this is going to be the main one that you want to play. Next, we're playing the new super combo. Pretty straightforward. If you're playing a mono green strategy, you combo with this card, it gets 10k. Place 1 card from your hand at the bottom of the deck, draw 2. It's kind of like a watered down Paragus. Paragus might be better because he has static 10k combo power. You don't really have to be at a specific life total to get the combo power. You won't get the draw off of Paragus if you're not at 4, but combo power, he's still a static 10k. We're playing the 1-drop Videl blockers from set 11. These are the new blockers that we got in set 11. Every color has a 1-drop blocker that has the exact same effect. It's a 1-drop blocker. Auto, when you play this card, if you control a Unison, you draw a card. So it is a 1-drop cantrip if you have a Unison. And obviously, we're going to be sinking into that skill that offers us to give our battle cards revenge, which is going to be very, very important with this type of strategy. Now we're going to get into our fusion materials here. We are playing 4 of the Trunkses. Obviously, there's a couple different ways to go here. Most of the time, you're going to see a lot of the top tier lists that were posted over the weekend. They have little funky ratios or whatnot. But I'm just going to keep it simple. I'm just playing 4 Trunkses. He is the better one that you're going to be getting off in the deck. Activate main for 1 green. If your leader is a green Gotenks, you can discard this card from your hand. Then you can play or add to your hand 1 green Goten with energy cost 3 from your deck. Then shuffle your deck. When this card is discarded from your hand by a union skill, you can look at the top 7 cards of your deck. You can add 1 green unison with a specified cost of 2, and then shuffle your deck. So he does search, he digs top 7 to look for your unisons when he's used as a fusion material. And for 1 green energy, you can play out a Goten, which we do have copies of Goten in this deck, but obviously we're not playing the 3-drop counterpart from set 11. So Trunks is your better piece because you're going to get to scry and look at the top 7 to add another piece to your hand when needed. Next, we're playing 4 Shocking Death Balls. I'm not playing Dormant Potential, so the next best card would be Shocking Death Ball. Because you awaken so early and you awaken with a high life total, sparking Shocking Death Balls are going to be very, very valuable because you can play aggressively enough to the point where you don't have to worry about tapping out your energy so much, because you're still going to have Sparking 5 and you're not going to be putting yourself at a lower life total early on in the game. So Shocking Death Ball is still really, really good. Now, we're playing 1 Hidden Power of the Saiyans. I'm honestly just playing this card because I hate Obuni. Blue is just really, really strong, in my opinion, when it comes to defensive strategies. And being able to answer the Obuni, or maybe not answer it, but give your opponent a decision to make, whether they want to lose 6 cards or they're not going to play their tokens. Dealing with 1 Obuni is, okay, but dealing with an Obuni and 3 other tokens is kind of rough, especially because he has deflect and he can't be KO'd if you control a token. So that's why this card's in here. I'm playing 1 for the greater good. I kind of like the idea of including 1 drop counter in every single one of my decks right now. I do play in a best of 1 format at my locals, and I want to feel like I am prepared for every which way. I don't want to get bamboozled or get the wool pulled over my eyes. So obviously your drop counters are there for Invoker if you ever run into it. We're playing 3 Master Roshi Kamehameha Origins. This card is really good in my opinion. I was going to play 4, but for deck space and stuff like that, I decided to go down to 3. Basically he's got a drop area skill. By paying 1 green, you can add an extra card from your drop area back to your hand. So you're going to be looping your counterplays, your negates, stuff like that. It's just something to add utility. Obviously in a top tier strategy, this works excellent with Dormant Potential, so that's why you loop that. But for the most part, there are other options that you can use as far as extra cards are concerned to help, your defensive strategies of the game. Goku, right? So obviously this Goku card came out. The next 2 cards the next 3 cards rather that we're gonna talk about came out in the anniversary box. So Goku is your 1-drop. You want to try to see this guy as early as possible because he's kind of like your engine starter. For 1 green, you play him. Auto, when this card is played, you can add 1 green card with an energy cost of 6 or less and a Union Fusion skill from your deck to your hand, then shuffle your deck. So obviously you're going to go ahead and grab your Grim Reaper of Justice from your deck, and then activate main for 1 green. You can place him in the drop area, choose 1 card in your hand with a Union Fusion skill, reveal it, and then for each character name required for the Union Fusion, you get to add 1 card with that character name between 3 and 7 from your deck to your hand. So essentially what Goku does, right? You play him for 1, you add Grim Reaper of Justice, then you pay another green, and then you can add both the Trunks and the Goten fusion pieces from your deck to your hand, as long as they have, different names. So you get to add 1 Trunks and then 1, Goten, so to speak. So you have your pieces right then and there. So essentially 2 energy with Goku gets you your fusion combo, and then you can go ahead and start doing that the very next turn if you have the proper amount of energy to do so. So that's why you play, obviously, that Goku, because he's going to dig through your deck. This deck does draw a lot of cards, but if you can efficiently search your pieces to get your combo off, that's obviously going to be more important. We're playing 4 Grim Reaper of Justice. Obviously, this card is super, super strong. He's a 25k dual attack. He has deflect, so he's not going to get counterplayed by God Sealing Technique or anything like that. Obviously, you got to be careful with Charismatic Villain because he can KO. But for the most part, you're going to be able to play this card like 90% of the time. He's a Union Fusion for 2, so you don't need to use specific green for him, which is really strong, in my opinion. But he's a Union Fusion for 2. If your leader is Gotenks, when this card is played, you draw 2 cards, then choose one of your opponent's battle cards and KO it. So he's got spot removal with no cost restriction. When this card is removed from your battle area by your opponent's skill or KO'd, you can add 1 Goten and 1 Trunks from your drop area to your hand. So why he's such a good card. Obviously, the 25k dual attack is very important. You know, the spot removal is very important also, but because he's a threat, your opponent's essentially going to want to deal with him, right? But indirectly, with dealing with this card, they're going to give you hand advantage, because when he dies, you're going to get 2 pieces from your drop area back to your hand to either go ahead and go into another copy of him the next turn, or you're going to just have combo power or whatever it is that you need to utilize those Trunks and Gotenks for. So it kind of puts your opponent in a tough spot, because you can't ignore this guy because he's going to get out of hand very quickly. But depending on if they're playing the resource game, they might not want to give you those extra cards. So Grim Reaper of Justice is very strong in my opinion. I'm not playing the SR 5-drop from set 11. On paper, I just don't really like it. I know a lot of the top tier decks are playing like 1 or 2 copies of him, but I feel like you're just going to go in with Grim Reaper of Justice, and that's going to be your basic main play. And, you know, for deck reasons, like for space reasons, I didn't want to include it because I didn't feel like it was important. I didn't want to also play the other 6-drop, I believe, that comes from set 11. I believe he's a 6-drop. He's a unique critical attacker. You know, there might be, you know, arguments down the road that can be made to find room for those guys, but for the most part, I think your bread and butter is going to be Grim Reaper of Justice. And then we're going to play also 3 Surprise Attack Frieza. Obviously, you know, another free play battle card. He's a 15k crit. Whenever something is destroyed on your opponent's side of the board and is KO'd, whether it's by removal effect or battle, you get to play him for free from your hand. You can only control 1 of them at a time, so he does have that pseudo-unique keyword. But there's just a lot of ways, you know, of getting removal. You have Revenge, you have Shocking Death Balls, you have your Gotenkses. So there's ways of getting removal in this deck for you to be able to play him. Worst case scenario, you can charge him as your green energy because a lot of other pieces are so detrimental to your deck and for your strategy moving forward to win the game. So if he does become quote unquote dead in your hand, you could charge him or just use him as a 10k combo if you really feel like he's not going to be utilized any which way. And then the last card, we're playing the 2 Frieza Unisons from the starter deck. This could be, like I said, any other Unison, any other 2-drop Unison. You know, you can play the Golden Frieza from set 11. I don't have access to that card, so I'm playing this Frieza. As long as you see a Unison by turn 2 so you can awaken, obviously, in a perfect world, you want it to be Vegito. But if you have to play Frieza, you just play the Frieza, in my opinion. But he's not too bad. I mean, permanent, if this card would lose a marker from an opponent's attack, you may place 1 card from your life in your drop area instead. So he can survive. He has survivability if you need it to last just by critting a life. It's not as good as a Demigra because you don't get it to your hand. But Demigra is not a specific 2 green cost. He's only a 1. So this Frieza does have merit in this deck. Activate main, uptick 1. You can choose 1 card in your hand and discard it to draw a card. I mean, you can filter out dead cards if you don't need them. And then activate main, -1. Choose 1 of your opponent's battle cards with an energy cost 4 or less, KO it. Or choose 1 of their Unison cards and remove a marker from it. So he does have some utility. I mean, if you play this guy early and you don't see the Vegito, you can just utilize him as a toolbox on board till when you see the Vegito, you can start popping things and free playing in your guys, or you could remove markers from their Unison to make it easier to deal with because you don't want the Unisons running out of control. So, you know, on theory and paper, you know, this guy seems to be okay as a replacement if you don't have access to the Golden Frieza from set 11, which I don't. So I'm just going to be trying this version of the deck. But obviously, your main pieces are going to be your Ss3 Vegito Unison and then your Gotenks Fusion Chain. That's basically just what the deck does. It's very good. It's very potent. It does a very good thing for a little bit of energy. The leader is very, very good as well because it could apply pressure and commit to the board without... you can passively commit to the board without burning your resources from hand, just by bringing out tokens, which is obviously we've seen with Obuni how valuable tokens can be. So playing tokens for energy off of a leader skill, I think is really good. So this is my budget take on the Gotenks deck. I'm going to be trying it out this weekend at my locals, which I expect to be facing all, you know, the players there and a whole bunch of Gotenks mirrors all weekend. So hopefully, you know, we'll see how that goes. But this is a good skeleton to start off on a budget if you really need to. And if you want to, of course, break into the game, this is not a bad starting point, and you can always make further upgrades later down the road. Like I said, this deck that you see on screen right here, you could probably piece it together for like 40 bucks. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Be there or be squared.